Good evening, students. How are you all? Fine. Okay. Very good. Dear students, now is the session of economics as usually it happens every day at this time. In the previous few sessions, I had discussed about consumer's equilibrium through utility approach. And a major part of consumer's equilibrium also I have discussed, that is indifference curve approach or ordinal approach of consumer's equilibrium. Already I have told you that the basic difference between utility approach and indifference curve approach of consumer's equilibrium is that the utility approach assumes utility to be cardinally measurable, but the indifference curve approach assumes utility to be comparable. This is the basic difference between the utility approach and indifference curve approach. So, to achieve the point of consumer's equilibrium, it is very important to know what is indifference curve, what are the properties of indifference curve, what is budget price line, etc., etc. These are the different instruments which Hicks and Allen have used to obtain consumer's equilibrium without measuring utility of a commodity. So let us explain it in something detail. Okay, students, already we have seen that there is a given budget price line to every consumer, as well as there is a given indifference map before every consumer. What about budget price line? We have discussed that it is the capacity line of a consumer, and in fact it is a graphical presentation of all those possible combinations or bundles of the two goods which a consumer can buy with his given income and given prices. Already we have discussed them in detail. So long as indifference map is concerned, it is a set of various indifference curves in which a higher possible indifference curve shows high level of satisfaction because it contains more of both the goods X and Y. So there is a given budget line to a consumer, and always there is a given indifference map to a consumer. Okay, this indifference curve approach says that a consumer always would like to achieve such a combination that is available on the highest possible indifference curve. But whether the consumer will be in position to have this combination or bundle of the highest possible indifference curve or not, that is restricted by the given budget price line. So if we collide the indifference map and the budget price line together, then you will easily find out the point of equilibrium where the given budget price line is tangent to the highest possible indifference curve. That simply means if the given budget line is tangent to highest possible indifference curves, then it means the given budget line is tangent to the convex indifference curve. And where does it touch or tangent? Where is it tangent to the indifference curve, highest possible indifference curve? That will be called as the point of equilibrium through indifference curve approach. Okay, students. But according to this approach, the two conditions must be fulfilled, otherwise the equilibrium may not take place. First one, at the point of equilibrium, the marginal rate of substitution, that is MRS, that is delta y by delta x, must be equal to the price ratio of the two goods, that is Px by Py. It means the first condition of consumer's equilibrium through indifference curve approach is that the MRS, marginal rate of substitution, delta y by delta x should be equal to price ratio of the two goods Px by Py. And the second condition of consumer's equilibrium according to this approach is that the indifference curve must be convex to the point of origin or at the point of equilibrium. Convexity of indifference curve is essential. That simply means, according to indifference curve approach, the marginal rate of substitution must be falling while moving from one combination to another throughout the indifference curve. So, by fulfilling these two particular conditions, a consumer can obtain equilibrium, that is called consumer's equilibrium. Okay, students. Now, what are the differences between utility approach and indifference curve approach of consumer's equilibrium? The first difference here is that utility approach given by Marshall assumes utility to be measurable in quantitative terms, whereas indifference curve approach assumes utility to be comparable only, not measurable. The second difference is that utility approach of consumer's equilibrium is based on the law of diminishing marginal utility, whereas the indifference curve approach of consumer's equilibrium is based on the law of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. The third important difference is that according to utility approach of consumer's equilibrium, MUX by PX must be equal to MUM, that is marginal utility of money. But according to indifference curve approach, the consumer's equilibrium takes place when the diminishing MRS delta y by delta x is equal to the price ratio of the two goods, that is Px by Py. Okay, so the utility approach does not consider income effect and substitution effect separately, but indifference curve approach considers income effect and substitution effect of price change separately. So these are the basic differences between indifference curve approach and utility approach of consumer's equilibrium, which I have explained now, and I hope that you everyone will go through these topics in something detailed and better way from your textbooks. And again, if you have any confusion and question or queries, then must converse with me. Thank you very much.